From the beautiful studios of Way Happy, this is Mr. Meyer coming at you with Chapter 10.1 Introduction to Conic Sections. Now, what is a conic section? Conic means cone. So you just want to think of when you hear the word conic, you want to think of that as a cone. And what we've done is we've taken a plane and we've sliced that cone into pieces. So look right here at this purple plane. We cut that cone into it and it leaves a shape behind, and that shape is a circle, and that is our first conic section. It is called a circle. So all circles are conic sections. And then we have, if you slice it just a little bit skew, just angle that plane a little bit, you will cut it again and it will no longer be a circle. It will be what we call an ellipse. So that is our second conic section. Now crank it up even more so it doesn't hit the other side of the cone, and you get that, you will get what we call a parabola. And you've probably done tons of parabolas, but we'll have a different formula for those. And last but not least, if we slice it vertically where you can actually hit both cones, this is if we have two cones touching like we do in the drawing, you get what's called a hyperbola. And those four pieces right there are what make up we call the conic sections. So when anyone ever talks about conic sections, first, most people groan because they're like, oh, conic sections. Second, just realize that all we're talking about are circle, ellipses, hyperbolas, and parabolas. That's it. That's what we're talking about. And you get to learn all those shapes just like you've learned other parent functions. So I'm not going to give you the equations just yet. The book is going to say, hey, what would you do if you were stuck? If somebody gave you that equation, what could you do in example 1A? And you'd probably panic a little bit and not know what it was. But then I would want you to try to figure out if you could find what kind of shape it at least was. And one of the best ways is to grab your fancy pants calculator, right? So I'm going to fire up my calculator and I'm going to already type this in. So I hit y equals. I'm like, oh no, I can't, because the equation has x's and y's. It doesn't say y equals. So yuck, we got to come over here and we got to fix this up. So it says y equals. So we're trying to isolate the y. And I'm going to start off by moving this whole chunk here that was added on. I'm just going to move it to the other side. So I'm going to move that over. And what am I left with? Well, I'm left with y minus 1 squared on this side equals, yuck. I mean, here, we'll do 1 minus x minus 1 squared on this side. And then how do we get rid of a square? Oh, that's right. We square root it. That's the undoing of that function. So y minus 1 now square rooted, I guess I didn't need the parentheses, is equal to the square root of 1 minus x minus 1 squared. Oh, wait. When you square root, you have to do something plus or minus. That's right. Plus or minus. So remember, whenever you drew in the square root symbol, you put a little plus or minus out front. If the square root symbol was already there, then you know it's positive or negative because somebody who drew it before you had put it. But if you do it, I need to see a plus or minus. Last but not least, I'll add the 1 over to this other side, and I'll have this ugly mess, right? 1 minus x minus 1 squared plus 1. That is what we will put in our graphing calculator. Now, you have a little trouble with the plus or minus. That means we're going to have to do it twice. So first, let's do it for the plus version. I'm going to go square root, and then I'm going to do 1 minus parenthesis x minus 1 squared. And then I'm going to go outside the square root and put plus 1. And now I really wish I had a copy feature on here, but negative second square root 1 minus parenthesis x minus 1 squared. And then I'm going to get outside plus 1, and I'm going to hit, a good habit to get into, you hit graph, but a good habit to get into is hit zoom and pick zoom 6. That gets you back to a nice 10 by 10 graph. And I have a syntax error. So I'm going to go to my syntax error and I don't see it. That's a really good syntax error. It is right there. I used a subtraction instead of a negative sign. And apparently I forgot the 1. So second insert 1. Now I'm looking better. Now I can hit graph or zoom 6. And there is my shape. What on earth is that? I have no idea. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to zoom. I'm going to zoom in. And you get a little cursor. See, my cursor's at 0, 0. I can move it right a little bit. I can move it up a little bit. Kind of see that little plus sign moving around on the screen? That's where my cursor is. I'm going to go right there and hit enter. And let's see if this is any better. Oh, look at that. that looks to me like maybe an ellipse, maybe a circle. Now, if you want to be the perfect kid, you might notice that your window is rectangular on your graphing calculator. So in the zoom feature, there's also one, I think I have to scroll down, called zoom square. And what that'll do is force your calculator to graph X's and Y's the same. Oh, there it was number 5. And so if I hit number 5, zoom square, it will now graph it, and it looks more to me like a circle, like I was expecting because I knew the formula. And so I'm like, that looks way more like a circle. So zoom square will just make it so the distance in the X direction and the distance in the Y direction will be the same. And that way the rectangular doesn't skew it up a little bit. That's what they wanted to know. They wanted me to come over here and say what kind of conic it is. I'm going to say a circle and describe the center. All right, let's go back, and I'm going to guess the center is right about here. Was that over 1 and up 1? So we're guessing here. We're guessing. The center, I'm going to say, is 1, 1. And what else could I do? They want intercepts. Where did it intercept the X or Y axis on us? And that was right here. It looks like it intercepts at 1, 0 and 0, 1. So I'm going to put those on here too. The X intercept, I would say, is at the point 1, 0. And the Y intercept, I would say, is at the point 0, 1. And I've got a little way there, but that's okay. Is that good? All right, I'm feeling pretty good. So same thing's going to happen here in part B. Make it say y equals. So I guess I'll subtract 4x squared over. So negative 25y squared equals 100 minus 4x squared. And then I will divide by negative 25. So y squared equals, I guess you could make that, do you guys care? Minus 4x squared over negative 25. I was thinking of dividing them each individually by negative 25, and then I thought, well, it's going to be a fraction anyway, so I don't care. And I'm going into the calculator anyway, so let the calculator do all the reducing. We would never leave our answer like on a test, but if we're going to type it into a calculator, I'm going to let the calculator do all the reducing because, to be honest, it's better at it than I am. And so I trust it more. And therefore, I will see. Now, I kind of have an idea what I'm expecting here. I can't see the equations, though, so that's kind of bad. So I'm going to zoom over here, and oh, beautiful. What luck that is. I can actually see what I have. So I'm going to go y equals. We will clear this bad boy out, and we will do the square root of. Now, if you didn't know you have a fraction button, some of these new updated ones do. If you hit alpha F1, you might get that numerator denominator. That's a fraction button, and that is a lifesaver because you no longer have to worry about parentheses. Now, if you have the older operating system, then you got to make sure you put the entire numerator in parentheses and then the entire denominator in parentheses, and you will be golden. But there's that one. I'm going to go out. I'm going to clear this out. I'm going to go second square root. I'm going to go alpha F1 or y equals and put a fraction in. You know what? Let me take that back. I'm going to do it like a kid who doesn't have the button. I got to do parentheses for the numerator. So 100 minus 4x squared. And then that kid's going to want to make sure that they close their parentheses, hit the divided, and then open up another set of parentheses for the entire denominator, which is just negative 25. So kind of didn't need parentheses, but good habit to get into. Now I will hit zoom 6 because that's programmed in my brain. And I will see what this looks like. Ooh, that is a funky looking, looks like a square root graph reflected. I mean, something. Did we forget a negative? I think we did. Okay, not we, I did. On the second one, remember plus or minus, second, insert that negative sign, and now let's graph it. Looks like I got one there, nice, and the other. And that shape, think of two cones touching, and we just sliced it down the middle. We got what's called a hyperbola. And so what things did they want to know? They want to know the center of it. The center is going to be like right here. So this is the center at 0, 0. And it looks like it intercept 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like it 5. So we have a center. Was that 0, 0? Oh, I forgot to say it was a hyperbola. Hyperbola. Centers at 0, 0. And I also noticed that we had an x-intercept at, what did we say? 5, 0, I think. 5, 0 and negative 5, 0. And this thing's about to cut me out. I can't believe I went 10 minutes already. Yep, 5, 0 and negative 5, 0. Those are our x-intercepts. All right, let me ask you a question, and we'll be right back.